What I've enjoyed most about my placement at WiseTech is just how welcoming and supportive everyone is. With each rotation, I've had two great mentors who are always here to support you and help you grow.
What I've enjoyed the most about WiseTech is the variety of people I've gotten to meet.
It's a support network that's created for the interns because it's been really nice to share the experience with similar-minded people.
Seeing how software is created in the real world.
The supportive environment.
Meeting new people. It's really hard to meet new people during these COVID times. So being able to see some fresh faces and learn from them was a nice change.
What I've most enjoyed about my placement at WiseTech was working with industry professionals because it really gives you a sense of what life's like after university.
Be open-minded and to have a can-do attitude. Be confident in what you're capable of doing and what you know, but also be okay with not knowing everything or not knowing what to do.
You only have a short period of time here, so try and make the most of it by learning as much as you can.
My advice to someone who's starting at WiseTech would be to try out different things because you will be supported by the people who work here.
Come in with a growth mindset and be willing to try new things.
Talk to as many people as you can. Not only does this really help you understand WiseTech and the way it works much faster, but it's also just so much fun to get to know all these different people.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard White, the CEO and founder of WiseTech Global. I've always had a real interest in technology. Even before I got into computers, I was really interested in technology generally. Early on in my career, I got some contracting jobs with logistics companies, and I realized that their systems were very poor, very disjointed, and in need of major rework. And I thought there was a problem that was large enough and complex enough that it was really worth solving. It would be very powerful to solve the problem well. I was able to take the initial problem set of international freight forwarding and customs procedures and turn that into a very valuable, highly sophisticated global business. This is a very complex area of business because you have to pass through two borders, and at that point goods have to be cleared through a customs procedure, and as well as that the logistics of the goods as they move has to be planned and optimized, and we build a system and deliver that system to our customers that is a complete solution for most of those capabilities and problems that you have to do international trade. We have customers in 130 plus countries, and we have a huge amount of the world's capabilities available to us on our platform, and we're growing it every single day. And we've become, a very, very standard system for the industry to use. I've always been very curious about how things work, and I've liked to solve problems, and I like to understand what tools you can have to solve problems, and I like to innovate and create new ideas that solve problems. And all of those things together, plus the tenacity to keep moving, to keep pushing forward, and the ability to impassion yourself and the people around you to drive value and to create something of lasting significance is a really important part of the journey to building a successful business. Well, I think technology companies and technology people have always been at the forefront of cultural change and cultural adaptation. And COVID created a catalyst. Technology companies adapted incredibly smoothly and quickly, particularly WiseTech. We were thinking about going out of the workplace in March 2020, which was before anybody else was doing it in Australia. And by the middle of April, everywhere in the world that we had a business, people were working from home. And actually our productivity went up. Our people were able to continue to do their great work and be creative and innovative and powerful and deliver on time and do wonderful things with software whilst working together and yet digitally very connected but physically very remote. Well, I think first of all, technology has always been an industry that creates change and makes things better. It enables people to use their intelligence and their sophistication and their education and their abilities in ways that 20, 30, 40 years ago were unthinkable. It creates a very strong employment environment for people who want a stable and strong employment. It creates value for our communities and for our countries. Well, there's a couple of fundamentals that you have to build a clever business on. If you're going to be an innovator, you're going to be a disruptor. The whole idea about the status quo is that we're going to change it. And so you need a certain type of people that think differently, that want to work together to make a difference. And you can't get all that in one person. You have to have that in groups of people. And those groups of people need to work together to create that environment where unconventional ideas can come forward and questions can be challenging and people can disagree about things to get to the better answer. And you need a lot of things that are created when you have a diverse and inclusive workforce. That's really kind of the secret sauce. Well, remember that a technology company is still a business and it still has a lot of facets. It's not like every single person in WiseTech is a software developer. That's not true at all. We have marketing people, we have sales people, we have finance people, we have legal people. There are a lot of facets that are not cutting code. I happen to think that writing software is a very significant and powerful idea, and that by itself it does create the fundamental of the company, but there are a lot of capabilities that are needed in any company to make things good. When you're dealing with a large organization, which is largely about people working together, everybody has to have the ability to either find people with soft skills or to have those soft skills. The ability to inspire people, to drive passion into the business, to create that idea where curiosity is allowed and asking difficult questions is allowable is a fundamental idea. They're the skills that people need in order to bring everybody together and actually have people create something new and different and better. Well, I think you should give it very strong consideration. At first blush, technology seems like it's tough, hard to do, but you know, I can tell you that technology is a very cool industry with some fantastic people in it, and it's freeing of your lifestyle. It creates an environment where you can do things that you could never have thought possible. We support the movement of hundreds of millions of transactions of goods moving across borders every day of the year, and I think that's a really powerful thing. We are making a difference in society. We're making a valuable contribution to the Australian economy. We're giving a lot of our staff an important and valuable career, and we're making a difference to the world in terms of our social and economic and our environmental responsibilities.
Hi, I'm Chris Phipps. I've been working at WiseTech since April as a software engineer. It's a typical workday. Start around 8:30, check some of the stuff I've been working on the day before, and then I'd have a stand-up with the rest of my team. Then after that, I'd be working on the items that I've been allocated for that day. Later on in the afternoon, I'd talk to my mentor about any issues I'm having with anything that I'm working on. I'd heard about WiseTech from a few friends of mine, and after hearing so much about them for so long, it got to a point where I just thought, I'm just going to reach out to them and see if I can get a job here. And that's exactly what happened. My favorite thing as a software developer is, you spend hours or days trying to solve a particular problem, and once you finally break through and solve it, it's the best feeling in the world. You feel like you're improving every day, and it's just a fantastic feeling. Bit cliche, but as a kid, I loved video games, and I loved solving problems. And I was one of those kids who just loved spending a lot of time on the computer. And eventually I got introduced to programming, and I loved that. And I decided from then on that I wanted to work in that field. So some advice I give to myself in high school, if I was in high school now, try learning a bit of programming online. There's so many resources out there. You're spoiled for choice these days. But yeah, just give it a go. Myself, I only really started getting into programming once I took a computing course in my first year of university. And that was kind of my moment, I guess. And after that, I've just been completely hooked. So yeah, definitely give it a try if you're interested. My team's really cool. So I'm currently on my 3rd rotation. So I started that rotation 3 weeks ago. The rotation program, basically for me, I've spent 8 weeks in different teams, just seeing what different teams we have in the company. Currently working in a team called BorderWise, which is a smaller team. I spent 2 other rotations in our core team and what's known as our Glow team. All very different teams, different sizes, so it's been really cool. So having a mentor is one of the best things at WiseTech, because coming into this company, I hadn't worked at a software company before. I was feeling a bit anxious about lots of things. So being able to draw on my mentor's experience was really valuable to me, as well as knowing like what the best things for me to learn would be going forward in my career. So I found that really helpful. One project I've been working on recently has been to help code up an interface for something that scrapes information from the web, basically putting information in a nice, easy to read format for our clients to use. Biggest lesson I've learned since starting my career is never be afraid to ask for help. Sounds like it's common sense, but coming into my first job, I felt like I had to know a lot of things just to be here. But there's nothing wrong with reaching out to other people around you. They want you to succeed as much as you do. If you are interested in getting a foot in the door into the world of tech, you can check out the NCSS challenge. It doesn't matter if you've never done programming before or you've been doing programming for a couple of years. It's a great place to start. There's a lot of content there, and it's probably the best place to go if you want to see if tech's right for you.
Thank you for that presentation. We'll hop into the Q&A section now. The first question, I'll just let Chris answer this. How has COVID affected WiseTech in terms of work?
Yeah, really good question. Since COVID, we've been working completely remotely from home, as I'm sure you can see in the background behind me. So when I first started, I had a day or two in the office, but now we are completely remote. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll let Michael answer the next question. How does one get into a business like a WiseTech?
Well, I mean, I guess by just sending in an application, but you know, we've got a job board where there's a number of different job roles that are available. So obviously that's one way to get in, but also, you know, I really do encourage anyone who's interested in working at WiseTech, or any business for that matter, to, you know, do a bit of research as to who the people in the business are on, you know, a platform like LinkedIn, and literally just reach directly out. You'd be very surprised. Most people have the time to, you know, have a chat to you. I think Chris reached out to me directly on LinkedIn, and that was kind of how you know, our conversation started between the two of us. So, you know, if you don't see a job that's relevant to you, a direct approach is another way to do that as well.
Yeah. The next question is for Chris. Do you have to be a software developer to work at WiseTech?
Absolutely not. So as Richard was saying in his video, there we have people such as like product managers who are like interacting more with our clients. So there's like a lot of other soft skills that are needed. You also have like typical roles like marketing, accounting, stuff like that. So software developers aren't the only people at our company, that's for sure.
I might add to that if possible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, and you know, even within software development, there's many, or product development, there's many different things you can do. You know, there are people that are more involved in the UI or the UX design. There's people that, you know, work in our data centers, managing the servers and the networking. We've got people who work across security. You know, they're triaging different alerts that come in. They're investigating potential vulnerabilities or, you know, potential attacks and guarding against that. We've got data analysts who are, you know, looking at all the data that comes in and figuring out ways to make our clients, you know, work in a way that's more optimal. And we've got teams that work solely on productivity, so helping our teams to be more productive, to work more efficiently, and to, you know, deliver more. So yes, there's many different roles to service the business, but there's also so many different types of product development that you can do that's not necessarily just programming. Although I would say that programming is a very important skill to have, and also very valuable.
Yep. Do you find it hard to find a job after uni? I think this question goes for both of you. I'll let
Right, well,
Michael go first.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I mean, I did a business degree when I was at uni, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated, and I thought a business degree would be kind of a good mix across things. And then while I was at university, I was really interested in music, so I actually ran a record label during that time. And when I left, I kind of thought maybe I want to do something to do with music, but I didn't really know what it was, and I couldn't really find a job. I was still just doing a casual job, and then eventually I kind of started working for a recruitment firm that did recruitment for creative people. So it kind of was a bit of a mixture of like working with musicians and working in what I do now. And then, yeah, just eventually after a couple of jobs, ended up working at WiseTech, just by kind of following things that I like to do. I've always been kind of interested in technology and, just kind of found my way to here. But it did certainly take, I think I'd graduated maybe 7 or 8 months before I actually had a full-time job. So, I just kept applying for roles and seeing if something would land, and, eventually it did. And, things kind of just continue to grow if you just keep following things that you're interested in.
Yep.
Chris?
Yeah, no, that's very similar to Michael. So when I graduated, I like to think I had a mini existential crisis, and I went traveling for a while. But when I came back, similar thing, I was just trying out many things related to my field. So one thing I just kind of stumbled into at first was teaching kids how to code, and I enjoyed that. And then things just kept going from there, and I was like, well, I enjoy this, but I also enjoy the developing side a bit more as well. And then, yeah, one thing led to another, and then next thing I know, I'm messaging Michael on LinkedIn, and then the rest is kind of history.
And I might add to that, if that's all right. But the funny thing with Chris was when he reached out to me, I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe Chris could come work in my team, hiring the developers. And because my focus is on hiring, I thought, oh, maybe I'll get Chris to come work with me. But then I spoke to him, and I could kind of sense his passion for coding. And he did some of our tests, and he did really well, and he kind of got into that. But the first discussion, in my mind, I had a very open mind about what he could do because he had such a well-rounded experience. And I think that that's an important point because, if you're interested in a number of things and you put yourself out there and you get involved in them, you create more opportunities for yourself because people are going to see lots of different, potential within you. So yeah.
Yeah. The next question is for Chris. What type of skills did you need to know to get your first job at WiseTech?
Yep. So I graduated with a degree in computer science. So yeah, just general technical skills from my degree was basically what got me my job. But yeah, a lot of as well, like during my degree, you learn other stuff. Like getting involved with things during my degree, I learned sort of the other stuff that's not really like taught in the courses, like working in teams a bit more, interacting with people more, a lot of those soft skills. So yeah, just definitely get involved in as many things as you can.
Yep. The next question, we can let Michael answer this. What type of challenges does working from home face? Also, what are some pros and what are some cons?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the big challenges is, when I was working in the office 5 days a week with my colleagues right next to me, I'd hear what they were talking about. I'd hear what was going on in their world. So it's really easy to kind of know what's happening within your team without having to kind of sit down and actually discuss it because you just kind of hear what's going on in the background. And that doesn't happen when you're working from home. So you've got to be a lot more deliberate in catching up and discussing what you're working on, what you're doing, where you're at with things, letting everyone know that. So if there's someone that can help, they might be able to, jump in and provide support. Working from home does have a lot of pros. There's a lot more flexibility in the way that you approach your work day. I hire people all over the globe. So, when I'm talking to someone in the UK, which is pretty much 12 hours difference in time, I might have to work at a different, outside of normal work hours. But when you can just do that from your desk and, you know, take a bit more time in the middle of the day or whatever it might be, it's nice to have that flexibility. And it's also, you know, quite easy to really focus and get a lot of work done without having the distractions of people coming over to your desk all the time to talk to you. Although that is also a con, because I really do enjoy the social aspect of being in the office with our whole team there and all the different people within the company. And I think that, you know, full-time work from home can feel quite isolating, particularly in the current environment we're in, where we are working remotely, but we're also in a lockdown here in Sydney. So, you know, at WiseTech, what we are implementing is a hybrid model where the office is open, well, not at the moment, will be open when, you know, it's safe to be so, and you can come into the office as much as you want. There will be some time where people come in to get together to have collaborative work, but it's also, you're able to work from home if you choose to. So it's kind of, we're looking at a hybrid model where people have flexibility still, but people won't feel so isolated from the company and from their colleagues and just from, you know, general human interaction.
Yeah. The next question's actually for Michael. The video didn't cover much about Michael. What do you do at WiseTech?
Sure. So my focus is, I work in the talent team. So my focus is on hiring people. Mostly I work across technical roles. So software engineers, network engineers, machine learning engineers, security engineers, you name it. Anyone who's got engineer at their end of their title tends to have kind of come through my pipeline and my team. So do a lot of work with students as well. Do a lot of work with more senior people, you know, provide advice to people when they're going through the rotation process that Chris is in at the moment. But yeah, mostly focused on hiring.
Yeah. This next one's for Chris. Chris, as a software developer, what do you think are the most important languages to know?
Really good question. Honestly, it depends what you want to do. But if someone came to me like today and said, "Hey, Chris, what language should I learn as my first language?" I'd probably point them in the direction of either Python or JavaScript. Anything like related to websites or front end, like JavaScript is king at the moment. So I feel like that's really important to learn. And that is actually one of my regrets in my career, is I didn't learn it earlier, because although I've learned a lot while working at WiseTech, I think it would have helped a lot if I'd known a bit more beforehand, before I came here.
Can I just add to that as well from a hiring perspective?
Yeah, sure, of course.
You know, it is obviously important to have specific skills, and, you know, knowing specific languages is an important thing. But something that I look for when I'm hiring people into software development roles is more of a mindset. If you know how to learn new technologies, and you know some technologies really well, you can generally apply that knowledge to learning something new, particularly in an environment where you're surrounded by strong senior developers who can give you the time. So whilst it is, you know, like a language like JavaScript, or one of the object-oriented programming languages like Java or C#, which is the main language we use, are great to know and great to have. The more important thing is that you show that you're able to learn something at a deep level and then apply that learning to other learnings as well.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, because I had this question when I was first starting my career, and actually my friend's dad had a great analogy for this. So as a computer scientist or a software engineer, you're basically a problem solver. And this analogy that my friend's dad had was, you know, when someone's building your house, you don't necessarily ask, like, oh, what type of bricks are you using? What type of this are you using? Like, all the time, at the end of the day, the tech doesn't matter. As long as you have those skills to solve problems, that's what really matters.
Yep. What's the most important subject you learn at university? How do you use it at WiseTech or in your career? I think this question goes to both of you. I'll let Chris answer it first.
Sure. Probably for me, it would either be my data structures course or the extended algorithms course I took. So it data structures is one of the first courses you take as like a first year software engineer or computer scientist. The algorithms course was like a third year course that was optional. But yeah, both of them so many times, like in interviews, at work, have absolutely saved my life, and minutes and hours of stressing.
Yeah, Michael, did you want to add anything to that?
I think Chris has got that one under control.
All right. Yeah. Do you have any advice for uni students trying to find an internship? An example is like someone who does electrical engineering.
Yeah, is this for me, sorry?
Chris.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I'll let Chris go. Yeah.
Just like similar to what me and Michael said before when we were applying for full-time jobs, just try contacting places. Like even if a company doesn't necessarily have like is advertising internships and stuff, if you think a company is cool, like talk to them, send a message. Like so many times, I think half my friends, most of their internships they got weren't from places that were advertising or even had like advertised roles for technical people. So just put yourself out there, try asking places, and then anything can happen, really.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we have time for one final question. This one's for Michael. Michael, since you work in HR, do you need a strong understanding of software development to recognize a good candidate?
Good question. So when I started at WiseTech, I had no idea about pretty much anything to do with software development, and I can remember at the start, I was reading the CVs, the resumes that were coming in for roles, and I was like, this doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what any of this is, but you know, it did interest me, and I would read up and I would study on what various different technologies were or how they, you know, interacted with each other. And you know, I don't know how to code now, but I do have an understanding about how software is built and how it's put together. So if you have an interest in, you know, how things work and why they work in certain ways, then you can pick up those skills. So yeah, it was definitely a steep learning curve, and at first I didn't think I was going to make it, but you know, I just kept at it, and now I think I have a pretty good sound understanding, but I certainly wouldn't be able to program at the level that any of our developers at WiseTech can.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.